If you can look out at the people that are going to be viewing us, and hopefully there'll be a lot, and just give them some words of encouragement, what would you say to them? To another sit down with Michael Franzese, and today I am very excited. I have the privilege, the honor, the pleasure to sit with a very dear friend of mine and a brother in Christ, Darryl Strawberry. Now I got to tell you this, I've been following Darryl's career since 1980 when he was first drafted by the New York Mets. Those of you that know me, you know I'm a huge baseball fan, Yankee fan. Yes, I know some people are going to get mad at that, but that's too bad. And I've been following Darryl's career ever since. And you know, I got to tell you, it's amazing to me how two people can come from two different walks of life and yet have so many similarities in their story. And I think that's relative to a lot of people out there. You don't have to be a baseball player. You don't have to come from the mob life like I did. We all have a story, and it's amazing that we're all people, and in some ways we all interact and connect in a certain way. And you know, that's what I want to talk about today with Darryl. His baseball career is very well known. You can go online. Most of you know who he is. Tremendous ball player. But we're going to talk about what impresses me even more, and I never thought I'd be able to say that, but it's the amazing transformation, the way Darryl has reinvented himself in many ways, and it's a tremendous story. I'm inspired by it. I know many of you will be, and so here is my dear friend, Darryl Strawberry.
Thanks, Mike. Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you, man. And by the way, we're about to address a men's group here. We're in Southern California. Darryl flew in. I came up from Orange County, and we're about to address a number of men inside. But before that, Darryl was nice enough to sit down with me so that we can share this all with you. So one thing I want to say, Darryl, that impressed me so much, something that you said that really got to me. And you said that the pain in your life is what drove you to greatness, and the greatness in your life at one time is what drove you to destruction. And I can relate to that in a big way, and I'd love for you to talk about that a little bit.
I think we all, you know, come to a place where we have some kind of pain because of this life, and you know, coming to this life and not knowing who we are. A lot of times we think we know who we are, and we assume that life should go a certain way, but it usually doesn't, and it's because of falling of what happens in our lives. You know, I always talk about it, Michael, about lawlessness brings about brokenness, and it brings brokenness into broken generation one after the next until we are able to get to that point of getting the healing, like we are sitting here today in the healing process. And by the way, thank you for the endorsement you gave me for my book. I just got to say thank you.
It's going to be a great book.
Yeah, well,
okay, you know, turn your season around.
Yeah, turn your season around.
Turn your season around.
But I really appreciate your endorsement. I love people who lives have changed. You know, because the pain of who we really are without God. This is before with God. Right. You know, and I think a lot of people don't understand without God. There's a lot of pain that comes along in people's lives, and how do we recover? How do we recoup from the pain, the rejection of the dysfunction, the brokenness, whatever it may be that we have to deal with, and how do we become this new person? So my pain led me to my greatness, because pain can lead you into greatness. But what happens after that? You know, after you achieve all these things, then you still don't know who you are, because the pain is so real. And then there comes the destructive behavior, because you act out in such a different way that you normally probably would if you wasn't in so much pain. And rejection and living a life separated clearly from God brings about dysfunction. You know, dysfunction is real, you know, and in so many ways you challenge yourself to be a good person, but at the same time, after you've been through so much, you have this wall up where you don't trust anybody. So I'd rather be destructive myself instead of letting everybody else destroy me. I destroy myself, and I kind of fell into that pattern of life. You know, I had this talent, which was to be able to play ball, you know, and talent doesn't make you a man, Michael. You know, I think a lot of people think, well, because you have talent and you achieve all these wonderful things, it makes you a man. No, it just puts you on a platform to be able to be noticed by people, and the notoriety and the recognition you get, it could leave you empty. I've seen so many celebrities like myself at times, you know, where I was so good, but at the same time I was so empty on the inside, and something was missing on the inside more than anything, and that's the piece that I was always searching for. So that pain led me to my greatness, but my greatness would eventually lead me to my destructive behavior because I wasn't well.
You know, and if I recall, you had a rough childhood. Come from kind of a dysfunctional family like I did. And I think your relationship with your dad was kind of, you know, the impetus that really caused you to seek that greatness and become, you know, a great ball player. And in my case, you know, it was a little bit different. I love my dad. And as a result of my love, I decided to go into the mob life. And then I pushed myself to try to be the best possible mob guy I could be. So, you know, a lot of young people, and I know you speak to a lot of young people, they look at, you know, they've come from a tough situation and they kind of let it destroy them in a way, where you let it motivate you, you know, to be the best possible person you could be. And, you know, that's not easy all the time. It's difficult.
It's very difficult because you do try to motivate yourself to come out of certain circumstances in your life. And for me, my father was alcoholic, and the rejection and the beatings that he gave me, that's made me believe what he was saying to me, that I would never amount to anything. So I kind of believed that fact even when I was successful, but at the same time, I was driven to prove my point that I'm going to be great regardless of what you may think about me. And my greatness came out in my baseball skills, my baseball set. And I say that because it had to do with a lot of coaches in my life. You know, I had a lot of mentor coaches in my life that made me believe in myself and made me see myself. You know, because you have to see yourself to be able to achieve it. If you don't see it, you can't achieve it. It doesn't matter what it is in our lives. And I think realizing all these different coaches in my life pushed me, but at the same time, they helped me bring discipline in, because discipline has to become a part of playing sports or anything. You know, if you're not disciplined enough, you're probably going to go in the wrong direction. And I think I was very disciplined because I learned from my high school coaches, you know, basketball coaches, baseball coach, all those little league coach. They all played a part in me growing into maturing into a baseball player. But at the same time, I always say it never made me a man. So you see, a lot of times people think, you know, because you achieve, that makes you a man, because they can see the success that you've had. But in real life, that's not really real, especially if you're broken inside. Because see, the uniform just covers up your wounds, because the wounds are deep inside until you actually get healed inside. And there's only one person we know that can heal us, and that's God himself. All the rest of the stuff doesn't heal you. I mean, I accumulated homes, cars, living behind community gates. My kids had never understood life like I did. They were privileged. They lived a whole different life. I never lived a privileged life, and they did growing up. So I lived a life of, you know, it was gangs around me, street. So I also had a lot of street knowledge because of living, you know, in neighborhoods in South Central and growing up and going to Crenshaw High. So I knew how to take care of myself, even though I was broken. I just didn't know how to fix myself on the inside, which all of us search for. And it's impossible to completely fix yourself, because Jesus is the only one that could bring wholeness into you and bring you to this place of making you a man that you were created to be.
Yeah, it's so true, Darryl. And how important for you was it to have these mentors around you that pushed you and made you believe in yourself, and kind of in a way you became accountable to them, I would say, to really push yourself and be the best possible person you could be. That mentorship in our life and the accountability to the right people is so important.
It's so critical, you know, for one's life to, you know, to understand that, to understand the people that come into your life and they're pushing you for the good. You may not see it at the time, but see, I sit here today, and I think that's why I'm the man I am today, because of all the people that were in my life that I was, you know, accountable to, you know, the coaches and practice and all the things that they did for me to give me that courage. Because it takes courage when you come from a broken home, and your mother is the only one to raise you. She raised you right, and it's 5 of you, and she's raising 5 of you by herself and trying to feed 5 of you by herself with no father figure around. So you can make all the wrong decisions early in your life, which I saw a lot of kids in my neighborhood make all the wrong decisions and get involved in gangs and get, locked up before, they even made it to, anywhere in their life. So I could have made a lot of those decisions, but I wanted to play baseball and I wanted to play sports. So I was very thankful for the fact that I had so many men in my life. I think it's more important for young boys to have men around their lives so they can see what it is to be able to challenge yourself, because you're going to have to challenge yourself to find out what manhood is really all about. So I had that, and I used that to my advantage. Even though I went on to be successful, I had some struggles, but I always had what they had given to me to believe in myself to be able to overcome.
And you achieved obviously a tremendous level of greatness in your baseball career, and then you had a little darker side to your life, and then you've made a strong comeback. And what do you attribute that to, Darryl? I got to say this: we have another thing in common. It was a young woman in your life that's now your wife.
My wife.
That played such a tremendous role in bringing you to where you are today. We share that. Without my wife, I'd probably be dead or in prison for the rest of my life. So that's interesting to me. And what would we do without the women in our lives?
I know that's so remarkable, but because I think most guys don't understand that, and I think the Lord gives us that, all of us that, especially one that loves the Lord and find the Lord before we do, because God knows He's going to use them to bring us to our knees, and that's a very humbling place, for us, to be able to come, because Michael, how it is, it's the ego of a man. If I can't get the ego crushed, then I can't walk in humility, and if I can crush the ego, then I could be able to walk into humility and be able to accept the fact that God wants to use me for a different purpose, and I think that's what it was for me in my life. Just as well as your life, as we sit here and we think about it, the challenges were great. I'm glad I went through what I went through. See, most people would say they would hate to go through what somebody like I've been through and you've been through, but it brought us out on the greater side of being a man, I think, more than anything. So I think from the pain of being broken and going through the troubles and the trials and tribulations, made me look up to the cross. It made me have a strong desire to have a relationship with God, because I was already lost in everything I had out there. None of that never worked. So it had to be something greater. And I even knew that when I was playing. I always told myself it had to be something greater than just achieving all these great things and not being happy. You living in homes and stuff like that, $2 million homes and driving fancy cars, and I used to be like, God, is this all it is, to life?
We always look for something more, even though we had all of that. It wasn't fulfilling, and people don't understand that. I say, come on, I get hear the same thing. Come on, Mike, you drove the greatest car, you had a jet plane, you lived in. It just wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough. It was the piece. It was the piece that was missing on the inside. Okay, and that's why I like King Solomon. When I read about him in the book of Ecclesiastes, he was like the richest, wisest man, and he had all this stuff, and he had all these wives and different life, and he felt, I could read, when I read through the book, you could feel the sorrow of him, of saying, that empty void on the inside, I tried to fill it with everything, I. And he said it's meaningless without God under the sun. He realized that he didn't have God peace. He said that empty void on the inside of all of us is the peace that is made for only God can feel, that brings real peace and joy and clarity to our life. And when you think of him being who he was in Jerusalem and what he did and what he had, to come back and tell us it's all meaningless, then you understand it. After we see a lot of people say the same thing to me. Well, how could it be meaningless? It means nothing, because you're still empty on the inside. When you go home and you lay your head down at night, you're still empty. What is it? Another girl, another drug, another drink. Whatever my life was, that's what it was all about. Until until Tracy came into my life, and then because she was faithful to God and she was walking with God, and I saw that and I wanted that because it was joy. It wasn't a pretender. It was the real joy that one was always looking for. And I was wondering, why is she so happy all the time?
Yes, I know.
and I realized that she was so happy all the time because she knew Jesus. And here it is. I didn't know him. I knew his name, but she knew him personally. And I wanted what she had. And that really attracted me. And that really brought me to a place where I came to a place of falling in love with God, because I saw the beauty that was in her that was real. And that's all I ever really wanted in life. I didn't really care about all the stuff and all the trophies and all the things that I achieved. I wanted that peace. I wanted that calmness about who I am and why we were created. And I think I found that one.
And God has given that to you.
Yes.
You know, Darryl, one thing that, that's so important to me and it impresses me with you is that people don't realize the strength in humility. When people are humble and they realize that, we're all so fragile and delicate in this life, in any moment things can change, no matter who you are or how much money you have or what kind of power you have, it can change in a moment. And I've seen that throughout my life. I'm sure you have too. And when you're humble, there's such strength in humility. And people don't really realize that. And you've come to realize that. I certainly have, and you go through things in your life and you realize one day, I'm driving in my own jet plane. The next day I'm in the hole in a 6x8 cell and I'm borrowing someone else's underwear to sleep in, That's how fragile life can be. But humility is really strength. There's strength in humility. And I see that in you, and it's just a great characteristic to have.
Well, thank you, because I see that in you too, because I know your life story, and we've been able to be on some platforms together, ministering back to back, and it's just really powerful when you actually see God touches a person's life, and you think about your life, where you come from, and you've had one heck of a life, brother, and a big life in a big place where a lot of people don't understand, and like you said, to be able to humble yourself, because your lifestyle is totally different than mine, and of course, you're not supposed to ever get out of your lifestyle. And look what God did it to you.
That's right.
Look what God did to you, and I'm just not talking about that, Mike. I know you. I'm amazed what God has done in your life, and the place that He has brought you to, and where He brings you from. And it's the same thing what He did to me for my life. He brought me from a pit and put me in a pulpit, which we're not qualified, but He did it Himself because we were willing to surrender. Like you said, your wife, had it not been for your wife, where would you be?
Dead or in prison.
And that's pretty
without
much
even a doubt.
That's even the same with me. Where would I be had it not been for my wife? And I think so many guys miss that point when God gives us a helpmate. We understand what a helpmate is, because it helped us to come to a place of getting healed, humbling ourselves, and walking in humility. Humility, just like you said, is strength. Guys don't understand. Moses was used mightily by God because of his humility. He couldn't even speak, and God used him mightily because he humbled himself in front of God. And I'm just so grateful, it's like for my life and your life and our friendship, that God would allow us to humble ourselves and walk in humility to be able to speak life, from our experiences, what we experienced in life.
No doubt. And I don't know if you ever get asked this question, but sometimes people say to me, Michael, God can be a crutch in your life. And, I don't take that as an insult. I say, look, He's not my crutch. He's my hammer. He's my sword. He's my strength. And, I always go back to the fact, I said, look, and you'll relate to this, Darryl, from the time I was a kid, my father drummed it into my head, you got to be a man's man. When you walk down the street, you got to hold your head up. You got to be a man's man. So when I came to Christ, what I would naturally did is I separated His manhood from His deity, and I just studied Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus the man, and I found out, like you did, there was no greater or stronger man or wiser man that ever walked the face of the earth than Jesus. And if you try to emulate Him in your life, you're going to be a better person all around, and everybody around you is going to benefit from you acting or trying to emulate Jesus. And so I tell people, He's no crutch. He's my strength. He's my armor. He's my hammer. He's what I look up to. And I know you feel the same way.
That's awesome, because that's what it is, And like I like what you said, when you study Jesus, and that's what the problem with most people, that they don't study. They don't know
They
who
don't
Jesus
know.
is.
They don't know who he is as a man.
Yeah, they don't know who he is as a man, and they're missing out. They're missing out on the greatness of who he is as a man. Because when you study Jesus, he's a man that comes to earth, with no sin in him, and he's righteous, and he doesn't condemn anybody. All the rest of us, we condemn each other and we point fingers. And here there's one man that comes and don't point fingers at the mistakes we made in life, and he comes in and he cleans us up. He cleans us up.
Absolutely.
If we could just get that point across to people, how he cleans us up and he clears us, and he brings such great clarity to us that we become a different person. Like you said, we become just like he is.
Yes.
You take on his image, because when you study him, you start understanding how to live, because he teaches you how to live. And I think that's the problem with so many men. They don't ever get to that place of studying Jesus. They just hear his name instead of studying who he is.
Exactly.
Because if you study him, you're going to have a revelation.
No doubt about it.
I guarantee you.
No doubt about it. It's what I tell you, because I know you speak with young people all the time, and so do I, and I tell them straight out, you got to know who Jesus is.
Yeah.
First of all, he doesn't want you to follow him blindly. He wants you to know who he is.
Yeah.
You got to study him. When you do, you're going to come to the same conclusion as I did and as you did. He is a man's man. He's the one you want to emulate. And then, of course, being the savior of the world,
Yeah.
we got everything to gain. Everything.
Well, it's such a great freedom that actually come through knowing Jesus. And I think that it's probably what we were always looking for. When you were in your lifestyle and I was in my lifestyle, and we was at the height of success, we would call it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, there was an empty void.
Yes.
That I can always say I had. And I was always trying to fill it with something to make me better. And I can tell you, it never made me better. It never made me better until I met Jesus. That's when I got better. That's when I became a real man, when I met Jesus. Because now I started to understand, the light came on, and I understand how to live like a man's supposed to live. How I'm supposed to adore my wife, how I'm supposed to adore my children, how I'm supposed to look at others. I don't look at others to judge them. I look at them clear, just like Jesus did, because he didn't condemn us. So why do we judge people? Why do we, even Christians, why are you judging people when God didn't judge you? Because had he judged us,
That's right.
We're not sitting here.
We wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here.
And that's the same for most people. If he judged you for your shortcomings, you won't be here. So what I'm saying to you, Mike, is I'm so grateful for the grace, because I understand grace. It was something I didn't understand for a long time. Grace is something that you don't deserve, but you get it anyway.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And when I started understanding grace, it started to bring me to a better understanding what life was really all about, more than I could ever imagine.
Yeah, and I agree, Darryl. I don't know how people come out of a bad situation without turning to God and having him strengthen us and inspire us and then motivate us and really transform us. I don't know how people do it, because I know, man, I spent, almost 3 years in solitary. And I know if I didn't have God, not as a crutch, but as an inspiration to really believe there was something more, I don't know if I would have come out of it. I really mean, I don't know if I could have gone forward. And, I tell people, you can call me a coward or weak or whatever, but when I was in that hole, it was tough.
Yeah.
And I leaned on God. I read my Bible every day. The Holy Spirit did inspire me. And I'm by far, I don't, claim to be perfect in any way now. I mean, I still have faults, and I don't know about you, but, they say you can take the boy out of Brooklyn, but you can't take Brooklyn out of the boy. And sometimes I want to go back to the mob days, but, something happens. But you know what? I have this God conscience now, and it says, wait a second, you're not that guy anymore, you're this guy. And again, it goes back to accountability. I think who we're accountable to in life means everything. When I was in the mob, I was accountable to my oath, I was accountable to my boss, and as a result, I did the wrong thing. Now being accountable to God, I think twice before I'm going to do something wrong. And you don't ever become perfect. We become a lot better. And I think, you're a perfect example of that. You've made a tremendous comeback. We've had our falls in life, and then we make a comeback, and we attribute it to our relationship with the Lord.
No question. I mean, that's so good, because that's so important, because none of us are perfect. Jesus was the only perfect one. The rest of us live here, we all gonna fall short. It's just that we we don't go back to who we were. And yeah, is there times that I that people could say some things about me, and I remember I'm 6'5". I'm psycho crazy. I'm from South Central. I used to love fighting. I used to charge the mound and hit pitches. Beat up pitches and stuff like that.
I followed you very closely. I got to tell you.
And I think about do I go there? But then like you said, that God piece inside of me just has to say, go over there and lay down and be quiet.
Right.
Because I've changed you.
Right.
You belong to me. You don't belong to that noise anymore. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that fact that we don't. I've seen you too, and I know you've been around a while now. We've been around, traveling and doing this, from place to place, different places. Everywhere I go, people go, Michael? I go, yeah, I know Michael.
And I hear the same all the time. Darryl, of course.
I say, yeah, we're good friends. It's like, you good friends with Michael? I go, yeah, so don't mess with me.
I don't think you have to worry about it.
But no, it's just so refreshing to, really be who we are. And I thank God for you. I think because I know your life, I know your story, and you know my life and my story, and we just thank God for that He's changed us and He's brought us to a place where we can help so many people. From just sharing our story of who we are and what it was like, and really being able to lead them to Jesus. It's like, I watched you. You're strong. You know Jesus. Like you said, your encounter with Jesus has been real, just like my encounter with Jesus. We're not going back. We know there's nothing there. We know that, at the cross is where it's at, and we know that He's the one is the healer of all things. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful that we sit here like this and, we have a conversation about God has changed our life.
And how, and I know this, Darryl, there was probably a point in your life where you thought it was over. You'd never be able to come out of this. You sometimes you fall so hard. And I did, and I said, man, it's over for me. And then all of a sudden, God picked us up and brought us to where we are today. And it's been a long time for you now, many years for me too. And we're here today because we're going to address a group of men, many of whom we know are broken. Because we get it all the time. I get emails all the time. I get messages, social media, you do too. Guys are broken in their lives, women too. And we try to encourage them and give them hope. And our hope and encouragement comes through Christ. We're going to share that out there. And I can talk to you all night long. I know, but we both got to get up on the stage pretty soon. But I want to ask you this. If you can look out at the people that are going to be viewing us, and hopefully it'll be a lot, and just give them some words of encouragement, what would you say to them?
I probably would just say to the people, that are watching me and Michael here, we are two gentlemen who have been saved by grace. God met us right where we were at, all the broken pieces of who we were. He loves the broken pieces of people. Doesn't matter what kind of broken pieces you have. Just trust the process of allowing God to be Lord over your life. Remember, it's the process. It wasn't an overnight miracle for us. We had to be in a dark place in our lives, Michael and myself, and God met us in that dark place, and He restored us over time because we stayed the course. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. He has a road that He's going to direct you down, and I want to encourage you to stay the course, fight the good fight, and don't quit. Me and Michael are a prime example of when you don't give up and you don't quit and you don't go back. Stop looking back over your shoulders. Nothing's there. Stop looking to the left, right. Look forward. Keep calling up on the name of the Lord, and He's got something perfect for your life.
And honestly, I could not have said it any better than that. Darryl comes from South Central, achieved greatness in his life. I came from Brooklyn, went into the mob, had some success there. And two different paths, but we arrived at the same place. And I can sit here and tell you this with all my heart. I love Darryl Strawberry. We're not together every day. We don't, associate all the time. We can't because we're on the road. But I love this man because I know his heart. Those are golden words. Set your sights on Jesus. Don't look back. And if he and I can come out of a bad situation, anybody can. If God can save us and transform our lives in the depth that we once reached, then he can do it for you. And that's the message today, and I hope you've been encouraged. And Darryl, God bless you, man.
I love you, Mike. I love you, brother.
I love you too, brother.
Thanks for having me, man.
And thank you for coming aboard.
You got it.
Appreciate it, man. Okay. MichaelFranzese.com. Join the community, join the crew. We're growing over 6,000 members right now. People are encouraging one another. They're loving it. We're putting a lot of content in there. We ask you to come aboard, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You're going to see more great interviews like this, and we're really growing. We're over 200,000 subscribers now, thanks to your loyalty. We're glad you're enjoying the content. And how do I always leave off? Be safe, be healthy. God bless. See you next time.